What if I told you the most feared man in Washington today doesn't live in America? What if I told you he's just 36 years old, commands no nuclear arsenal, yet every word he speaks shakes the foundations of global power? His name? Ibrahim Traoré. A soldier, a revolutionary, and, according to Donald Trump himself, the most dangerous threat to U.S. power since the Cold War. But why is a leader from one of the poorest nations on Earth now echoing through the war rooms of the Pentagon, the offices of the CIA, and the deepest corridors of the White House? What does he know? What is he planning? And most importantly, why is the West suddenly afraid of Africa standing up? In this video, we reveal the explosive speech by Donald Trump and the shocking response from Ibrahim Traoré that no one saw coming. This isn't politics. This is a global power shift. And by the end of this video, you will never look at Africa or the world the same way again. You know, I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't. But I've been watching what's happening in Africa. I've been watching very closely. Very closely. And there's one name, just one, that keeps coming up in every intelligence briefing, every diplomatic discussion, every private conversation that truly matters. Ibrahim Traoré. Now, most Americans, they don't know who he is. They have no idea. They've never heard the name. But I'll tell you something. The people in Washington? They know. The Pentagon? They know. The global financial system? They're watching him like a hawk. Because Ibrahim Traoré is not just a man. He's a movement. And movements like his, they terrify the establishment. When I was in the White House, they warned me. They said, Mr. President, there's this young captain in Burkina Faso. Military background. Highly intelligent. Charismatic. Radical ideas. I said, what kind of radical ideas? And they told me he wants Africa to stand on its own. He wants to remove Western influence. He wants his country to be free from foreign control. Can you believe that? They used the word threat over and over again. Not because he had weapons. Not because he was building armies. But because he had the one thing that truly scares them, influence. Influence over the people. Influence over the continent. Influence over what's next. Now, I want to make this clear. I don't hate the guy. In fact, I respect strength. Always have. Always will. But the problem is, Traoré isn't playing by the rules. Not the rules of Washington. Not the rules of NATO. Not the rules of Wall Street. He's playing a different game, and that's why he's dangerous. This man is going around telling African leaders, you don't need the West. He's saying, kick out the French. Kick out the Americans. Build your own path. And the scary part? They're listening. You know who else tried that? Gaddafi. And we all know what happened to him. But Traoré is different. He's younger. Sharper. He's not talking about guns and oil. He's talking about unity. Sovereignty. Dignity. And you better believe, that's more powerful than any missile. The CIA doesn't like him. The World Bank is nervous. Even in private talks at Davos, they whisper his name like it's some kind of curse. Traoré this. Traoré that. They ask, how did we miss this guy? They didn't miss him. They ignored him. Until it was too late. Now, let me say something very clearly to every American listening. If Ibrahim Traoré succeeds, he sets a precedent. He's telling poor countries, you don't have to beg. You don't have to borrow. You don't have to kneel. And when that idea spreads, when it spreads across Africa, Latin America, even parts of Asia, what do you think happens to American leverage? What happens to our corporations? What happens to the petrodollar? The bases? The contracts? Gone. You want to know why the deep state fears him? It's not because he's a dictator. It's because he's breaking the chains. Chains that were very carefully crafted over decades, by America, by France, by the West. And let me tell you something even more controversial, and you won't hear this on CNN. Traoré isn't just threatening Africa's relationship with the West. He's threatening the idea that the West should even lead the world. That's the real danger. He's challenging the very foundation of Western supremacy. He's not trying to sit at the table. He's flipping the whole table over. Now, during my time, I tried to change the game. I said America first. I pulled us out of bad deals. But Traoré is doing the same for his country. For his continent. He's saying Burkina Faso first. Africa first. And believe me, the system can only handle one rebellion at a time. 2. That's chaos. That's uncontrollable. So here's what they'll try. Sanctions. Isolation. Smear campaigns. Assassinations. Yes, I said it. They've done it before. They'll try it again. But the problem is, the people love him. They love him because he speaks like one of them. He walks in dusty boots, not Italian leather. He eats what they eat. He speaks their language, both literally and spiritually. And let me tell you something, you can't bomb charisma. You can't drone strike loyalty. He's not just a man in uniform. He's a symbol. A rising sun. And symbols, they outlast everything. So I'll end with this. Ibrahim Traoré is a threat. Not to the people. Not to peace. But to control. To the elite. To the script that's been written since World War II. And whether you love him or fear him, you better start paying attention. Because the world is changing. And he's not asking for permission. I have listened to the words of the former President of the United States. He calls me a threat. A threat to power. A threat to systems. A threat to the West. And perhaps he is right. But let us speak plainly today, not as enemies, not as adversaries, but as men standing on opposite sides of a long, blood-stained history. You call me a threat, Mr. Trump. But what is it that I threaten? Your empire? Your comfort? Your grip over a continent that has suffered enough? You mistake me for a man chasing war. But I am chasing freedom. You mistake my silence for fear. But I am not silent. I am listening. Listening to the voices buried beneath the red soil of Africa. The voices of Sankara, Lumumba, Nkrumah, Gaddafi. Voices that were silenced not because they were wrong, but because they were dangerously right. You speak of power like it is a birthright. But power is not inherited by bullets or billionaires. It is earned through the sweat of the people, through the cries of those who refuse to be slaves forever. Mr. Trump, you say I am flipping the table. That is correct. But understand this. That table was never ours. It was built in London, polished in Paris, protected by Washington, and forced upon us with the barrel of a gun and the stroke of a banker's pen. We were invited only to serve, never to lead. We were fed crumbs while diamonds, gold, and uranium were siphoned from our soil. So yes, I am not asking for a seat at that table. I am building a new one. A table where Africans sit without shame. Where we speak in our own languages. Where our resources are not traded for weapons or debt, but used to build hospitals, roads, dignity. You call me a threat because I refuse to kneel. You call me dangerous because I say Africa must belong to Africans. Tell me, Mr. Trump, when your ancestors crossed the ocean, they did not ask for permission. When they enslaved my people, they did not beg for a seat. When they redrew our borders and stole our names, they did not seek justice. They took what they wanted. Now we rise. And suddenly, it is us who are dangerous? No, Mr. Trump. What you fear is not my gun. It is my vision. Because deep inside your walls of marble and gold, you know. When Africa wakes up, the world must bow differently. We are 1.4 billion strong. Restless. Brilliant. Our soil grows your food. Our lithium runs your phones. Our uranium powers your cities. And yet, your media paints us as chaos. Your policies keep us in chains labeled aid. Your soldiers set up bases, not peace. You fear that I inspire others. That other African leaders might say, no more IMF. No more French military. No more mining deals written in Europe and signed in shame. And yes, that fear is real, because it is happening. From Niamey to Bamako, from Conakry to Kinshasa, the winds are shifting. And what you call instability, we call rebirth. Your intelligence agencies say I am unpredictable. But I am not a wild card. I am a consequence. A consequence of centuries of betrayal. Of children born in hunger beside oil rigs. Of presidents killed because they dreamed too big. So I will say this directly. Burkina Faso is not your playground. Africa is not your resource depot. We are not your laboratory for military exercises or financial experiments. We are not pieces on your chessboard, we are players in our own right. You said something else, Mr. Trump, something that struck me deeply. You said, you can't bomb charisma. You can't drone strike loyalty. But you also cannot erase truth. You cannot suppress destiny. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm not asking for your help. What I demand is simple: let my people go. Let the CFA franc die. Let the foreign troops leave. Let the contracts be renegotiated or burned. Because whether you like it or not, Africa is rewriting its story. And you may try to distort it, delay it, or even destroy it, but you cannot stop it. I am not perfect. I am young. I will make mistakes. But I will never betray my people. Not for dollars. Not for power. Not for applause in foreign halls. If that makes me a threat, then so be it. Let history remember me as the threat that made Africa free.